Hi, my name is Mike Dillard, and this is Self-Made Man, the podcast for men who want to leave their mark on the world and create a legacy of honor, integrity, and achievement in every aspect of their lives. I'm glad you're here, and once again, it is time to forge your destiny. So there's a mental disease that plagues men all over the world. It crushes their spirit, it kills their dreams, and it destroys their confidence. That disease is Mr. Nice Guy syndrome. This is the logical thought that if you're not getting what you want in life, whether that's a group of friends, a job, or a girlfriend, then the solution to getting what you want is to simply be nice, to be the nice guy. When your spouse is yelling at you, give her what she asked for. When your boss is riding your ass, apologize and grovel. And if things don't get better, well, then be even more nice. And as you're going to hear today, I am actually a recovered nice guy. From middle school until the age of 26, I thought the key to being loved, accepted, and valued was directly dependent upon being nice to others. Thankfully, I met somebody who would challenge that assumption and completely change my life in the process. So if you are suffering from Mr. Nice Guy syndrome, today's episode with Dr. Robert Glover will set you on a path that will completely change your life as well. It is the key to discovering your self-worth, your confidence, and the leader that's been locked up inside you your entire life. If you know somebody who is suffering from Mr. Nice Guy syndrome, please, please, please share this episode with them. It will be the greatest gift that you could ever give. With that being said, please help me welcome Dr. Robert Glover. Well, Dr. Glover, thank you so much for joining us here today. This is going to be an absolutely amazing interview because this is a topic that is near and dear to my heart. Especially after reading your book and listening to some other interviews that you've done. I'm super grateful that you're here. Thanks for coming.
Mike, it's a pleasure to be with you. I'm looking forward to it as well.
Absolutely. So, I thought we would just dive right in and begin with defining what a nice guy is or who a nice guy is for folks.
Okay. Well, I'll start out by saying I am a recovering nice guy. For a good part of my life, I would have been proud to tell you I'm a nice guy. I thought that was a good thing. I couldn't understand why everybody else didn't have a similar philosophy. And on the surface, it looks good. I was trying to treat people well, be a decent person, be generous, be a giver. But underneath all of that is a whole plethora of other things, because basically nice guys don't believe they are okay just as they are. And this is based on how we all inaccurately internalize beliefs about ourselves in childhood based on the things that happen to us. And we all do this. All children are narcissistic by nature, so they inaccurately internalize things. So if dad is absent, if mom is sad, if a parent is angry, if the child gets scolded or abused or punished or neglected or abandoned, children always internalize a belief that there is something wrong with me because I caused this painful thing to happen. And so what happens with nice guys, the way they choose to deal with this using a very immature, undeveloped brain, is to try to become the things that they think other people will approve of, and therefore to gain love and approval, and often to hide the things about themselves or the things that they feel or think or want or do, to hide those things to avoid disapproval or pain or punishment. So basically, the nice guy syndrome is a roadmap that developed often very, very early in life where we're out there trying to become something that people will approve of so that we can be liked and loved and get our needs met, and to hide those things about ourselves that we've internalized might cause disapproval or rejection or abandonment or being alone.
Can you give us some examples that would help people determine whether or not they're currently in nice guy mode?
In nice guy mode. Well, basically, let me give a core piece of it, and then we build examples from it. Nice guys tend to be governed by three, I call them covert contracts. And covert meaning that they're often hidden, and often hidden from consciousness of the nice guy himself, and very definitely hidden by everybody else around the nice guy. But covert contract number one, and these are all based on an if-then mindset. If I am a good guy, then people will like me and love me. when this plays out in terms of dating and relationship, the typical nice guy seduction is if I'm a really nice guy, if I do things for a woman, if I listen to her talk about her problems, if I offer to help her sister move, if I buy her drinks, if I just hang around her long enough and she'll see that I'm different than those other jerks she complains about, then she'll want to be with me. She'll want to be my girlfriend. She'll want to have sex with me. So covert contract number one is if I'm a good guy, then I'll be liked and loved, and the people I desire will desire me. Now, unfortunately, this doesn't necessarily work because, number one, we are the scorekeeper of how nice we are. And as I'm sure we'll talk about in this interview, nice guys aren't always nice. And number two, nobody else is aware of the covert contract. And number three, not everybody's going to like us or love us, no matter how good we are. And I often use the illustration of, it doesn't matter what your belief system is, the story of Jesus was that he was perfect, and yet people still disliked him enough to nail him to a cross. So being a good guy doesn't necessarily mean people are going to like you and love you. Covert contract number two is if I meet other people's needs without them having to ask, then they will meet my needs without me having to ask. And this was a big one for me. This is one where I was constantly, I could, when I was around people, I could say, well, if they had this, they would be happy. If I could do this for them, I could make their life better in this way. And so I would do a lot of giving. But unfortunately, it's a giving to get. There's strings attached. And, okay, I will meet these people's needs. I'll be generous. I'll be attentive. And then in return, they'll meet my needs without me having to ask. But unfortunately, nobody else is aware of that contract. Nobody else knows that you're being a giving person with the expectation that you will match the giving in return. And to add to the problem here is a lot of times nice guys pick people that are fundamentally broken to give to. Often this begins in family with a broken parent and then goes on into other broken relationships where we're giving to people that aren't really equipped to give much back. And then the third problem is nice guys are terrible receivers. Even though we're giving and hoping people will give back to us in return, we don't receive well. It makes us uncomfortable. An example might be for a lot of nice guys, if you give a nice guy a compliment, even though he desires to be valued and seen well, it's really uncomfortable. And often he'll say, oh, it wasn't anything, or it wasn't that great, or, oh, yeah, this is just some old shirt I threw on. And so we're really terrible receivers.
And why is that again, just for clarity's sake?
Because it goes against our core paradigm. Our core paradigm of the nice guys, I'm not okay. There's something wrong with me.
I'm not worthy of the compliment.
I'm not worthy of that compliment. And if you really looked close enough, you would see how flawed I am underneath. So I don't want you looking that close. And the other part of that is too, for a lot of nice guys, when we receive something, we feel an emotional indebtedness. It's kind of like, okay, I owe you something. My second wife used to tell me, well, actually, every woman I've ever been with in my life tells me how difficult I am to give to. But I've worked on that. I've worked on being a good receiver. But like my second wife would say, every time I give you something, you give me something right back. And she said, so it doesn't ever feel good.
Well, I think that's a perfect segue. I would love to hear about your story and your journey down this path and, how you came to write this book and help other men get out of, this kind of situation.
Well, it does begin in that same relationship with my second wife. I was doing everything under the sun to try to make her happy. It was a second marriage for both of us. She had 3 kids. I was being a stepdad. And through the first couple of years of our marriage, like I said, I was doing everything to be the good guy, to be better than her ex-husband, to treat the kids well. But yet it seemed like she was angry all the time. She was moody. She was critical. She wasn't particularly giving in return. And even though our relationship had been highly sexual before we got married, she announced on our honeymoon, aren't you glad now that we're married we don't have to pretend to like sex anymore? Well, I wasn't pretending. So then I kind of got into my covert contracts of trying to always get her to want to be in the mood to have sex, and she rarely was. And I felt like I was doing all the giving, all the heavy lifting, and all I got in return was an angry, moody, unhappy, sexually unavailable wife. as true with all the covert contracts, and we'll hit on that third one before we end today, of all the covert contracts, is that it tends to build a lot of frustration and resentment in the nice guy. And then that frustration and resentment always comes out in one way or another, either an unavailability, passive-aggressive behavior, something that my ex-wife named quite adeptly victim pukes, where things just build inside of us till the last straw, and we vomit everything out that's been stored up inside. So we're often not particularly very nice. And my ex-wife confronted me. She said, you got to go to therapy. I'd rather be with a jerk. At least you know that a jerk's going to treat you bad all the time. She said, you treat me well, and then when I'm not expecting it, then you either stab me in the back or embarrass me or blow up at me, and I didn't even know you were upset at me. So actually, I went to therapy trying to figure out why being a nice guy didn't make my wife a better wife. And quickly, I started focusing on some things that were more relevant. First therapist I ever went to, in our very first session with this therapist, taught me about boundaries. And for example, I was in my early 30s on my second marriage, had a PhD in marriage and family therapy, and had never heard of personal boundaries before. So that was a part of it. I started going to a 12-step group where for the first time in my life, I started being open and honest and transparent. Along the way, I started learning about making my own needs a priority and taking responsibility for surrounding myself with people and resources to help me get my needs met. I learned to be more transparent. I started connecting with men and spending more time with men. And then along the way, I noticed that many of my clients who were coming to me for couples therapy, a lot of the guys were saying the exact same thing I was saying. I'm a nice guy. I treat her so well. She's always angry. It's never good enough. When's it going to be my turn? How come she never wants sex anymore? And I thought, man, I can finish these guys' sentences for them. I'm not the only one thinking if I'm just nice, everything should work out perfectly. And so I invited some of these guys to meet with me every other week for a nice, No More Mr. Nice Guy group. And I said, I'll start writing some chapters, some lessons that I'll give you each time we meet on what I'm learning about nice guys and my own nice guy patterns and what doesn't work and what will work better. And I just kept writing, and my clients and often their wives and girlfriends kept saying, well, you should write a book. You should go on Oprah. Never made it on Oprah, but I kept writing. It turned into a book that was published in 2003 in hardcover. So that's almost 15 years ago as we talk now. So that's how the book got written. It was based on my own struggles and frustration, primarily in relationship, that after all the giving I was doing, I wasn't getting back in return what I thought I should get. And I was being not particularly nice.
Yeah, it's something... That's something I can definitely relate to. I would hope that I'm a recovered nice guy at this point, but I was the exact same way growing up. I was the smallest person by far in my school, specifically in middle school, and was picked on, pretty ruthlessly. And when you're the smallest kid, there's not much you can do about it. And so the only real defense mechanism that I could come up with was being nice.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I can't fight back, so maybe if I'm nice enough to everybody, they'll stop, coming after me.
And again, that's a good example of you inaccurately internalized something, and you came up with the best plan you could think of with your 12, 13, 14-year-old brain, and maybe it did help some in that particular situation, but as you probably realized later on in life, it wasn't a good roadmap or a good paradigm or strategy for getting what you wanted in life.
Yeah, no, agreed. I think it's most apparent, at least in my experience, when it came to dating and relationships, where being the nice guy, even though it made sense, it never ended well for either person. And fortunately, I met a gentleman named Evan Pagan in my 20s that completely broke me out of that paradigm and reprogrammed me in every way. And that was the single best thing that ever happened to me at that stage in my life, and really allowed me to become the person that I am today. And so this is an extremely common plight for a lot of men out there. I think probably more so today than ever before, because men get brainwashed by the media, and demonized by the media, and are victimized in television commercials 24 hours a day as beta males, essentially, who can't do anything right. And so as far as when you look out at the world today, what are the biggest challenges that you see that men have that are causing them to go through this?
Well, and you're right that I think there are more and more nice guys, even as I kind of look at each generation coming up since I even first started looking at nice guys. And I'm in the baby boom generation. I'm 61. And by the way, I bumped into Eben Pagan in my late 40s when I became divorced from my second wife and had to learn how to date. And he had a positive influence on my life as well. But there's a lot of factors going on, and we can look at the media, which is part of it. But I try to avoid kind of getting caught up in kind of the media bashing that is what makes us feel bad about ourselves, because I think it's more core than that. And I really think that the biggest pieces are is that so many young men, starting in childhood and through adolescence, early adulthood, are growing up with just no strong, trustworthy male masculine influences in their life. And we're surrounded with feminine energy. Most boys now grow up in what I call the nursery, the feminine nursery, where they're surrounded by feminine energy their entire lives. So they're often raised by a mother, often a single mom nowadays. They go to preschool where it's all women. They go to elementary school. And I often do polls with nice guys of how many male teachers they had before junior high. And the average is, and from my polls, is maybe about 1.5. I had one in fourth grade. So just getting from third grade to fourth grade involves more than just learning to read, write, and do your arithmetic. It involves learning to please a woman just to be able to move on to the next grade in school. The educational system is highly feminized. It really is geared towards how girls learn, not how boys learn. So there's very little masculine influence. Then we hit adolescence. And as you said, in junior high, we don't know how to relate to the girls. So most of us think, well, I'll just try to be that nice guy. And so we become friends with a lot of women. But there's no sexual polarity, no sexual energy, because we've repressed it all. Because we think, well, I have to get women's approval. And if I have any sexual intention, that will turn women off or make them think I'm bad. So for a lot of men, that we just grow up in this feminine nursery, and there's no ritual, there's no structure. So unless you're lucky enough to play sports and have some good coaches, maybe go in the military, what happens to a lot of young men nowadays is they end up just kind of taking the easy way out, surfing the internet, looking at porn, watching TV, smoking dope, playing video games. And that doesn't describe every young man, but those tendencies I see are extremely prevalent in most young adult males to some degree or another, of just that wasting time, taking the easy way, not being challenged. And I think that's one of the things that you're working on is helping men challenge themselves and get out of that nursery and live up to their masculine potential. So I think that there's just a general societal dynamic that's contributing to it. And I don't really point the blame at anybody, but I think the one thing that we can do is that men my age can really be aware of this and reach out to mentor younger men. And I think younger men can be aware of it and reach out for mentoring, coaching, assistance from older men who are further along. And as you said, have maybe already done significant recovery from their own nice guy issues, or from the things that the young men are struggling with.
Well, let's go back and finish up the third silent agreement, if you will, and then let's talk about recovery. What does that process look like?
Okay, third covert contract is if I do everything right, then I will have a smooth, problem-free life. Now, number one, you can't do everything right. And again, we're the scorekeeper of that, and we're not particularly objective. But life is not smooth and problem-free. And one of the things that I assume you'd talk with men around entrepreneurship is that it's a challenge. It's about risk. It's about getting out of your comfort zone. It's about getting out of that nursery. The nursery is where we want everything to be smooth and problem-free, where nothing challenges us, nothing upsets us, where we have constant validation and approval. So that's the third covert contract of the nice guy syndrome. And it leaves a lot of men to just follow the path of least resistance in life. And that goes back to whether it's looking at porn, surfing the internet, playing video games, hanging out with women where there's no possibility that she's ever going to want to have sex with you, but we just keep hanging out with them anyway because it feels safe. And yeah, as the work you do and the work I do is helping men start to challenge themselves and recognize life isn't going to be smooth and problem-free. In fact, it's those bumps in the road, those potholes that actually challenge us to grow us as men and help us evolve and develop.
Well, sure. I mean, the absolute guarantee to make sure that it is very, very uncomfortable and unhappy is to continue the nice guy routine. So
there is that paradox. The more we practice those 3 covert contracts, the more we're guaranteeing life's going to be more difficult than it needs to be.
So I'm in that phase. I'm definitely suffering from Mr. Nice Guy syndrome. What do I do?
What do you do? Okay. Here's what I did. And I think the basics of it are a good starting point. Number one, I went out and found safe people. And I recommend that highly in my book. I say to nice guys, don't try to do this alone for a number of reasons. Number one, we did not develop our internalized nice guy paradigm in isolation. It was the result of a social context. And so we need that social context to actually get more accurate information about who we are. Another reason is a lot of the nice guy syndrome is built around what's called toxic shame, that belief I'm not good enough. Again, we need safe people to help start bringing that up and releasing it and finding out that we're perfect just as we are. We're okay. We don't have to become a better you. We just have to love the me that I am. And often nice guys struggle with anxiety. And again, trying to overcome anxiety on your own, it's like, okay, you got a toolbox with 3 tools in it, and you're trying to tear down a vehicle, and you only got 3 tools. And you're just going to keep running into the same problems over and over again. So you got to go add some more tools to your toolbox to get the job done, and we get those other tools by working with other people. If we could do it on our own, we would have already been doing it successfully by now. So I tell guys, go find a safe place. Now, this can be a therapist. It can be a life coach. When I started doing my own nice guy recovery, there were not men's life coaches out there. And I actually just wrote a preface for the 15-year anniversary reprint of No More Mr. Nice Guy. And I kind of charted some of the changes since I started my own work. And back in the day, it was kind of like, Robert Bly and Michael Meade and the mythopoetic movement, and all that. But nowadays, you go online, there's online forums, there's any number of men's coaches out there. There's websites. There's retreats. There's a plethora of programs out there. So go connect. And if the first thing you try doesn't work for you, connect with something else. But there's 12-step groups. There's therapists. There's men's support groups, peer support groups, coaches. Go invite somebody else into your life and start opening up, trusting, being real, getting more accurate feedback about yourself and how the world works. So number one is go get help. Go ask for help. That's what men do. We a lot of us men have this attitude, I do it myself. I'll figure it out myself. It scares me when I hear men say, well, I can figure it out myself. No, that's not how we're built. That's not how we work. Go get some help. Don't try to do it alone. So that's number one. Number two is work at being honest. And most nice guys, even though we think we're fundamentally honest, we're typically not. And I wasn't. And I remember going to a 12-step group. And I went to a 12-step group for sexual addicts. And when I got there, after a session or two, I realized, okay, I'm not a sexual addict. I had acted out and misbehaved sexually, but it wasn't a compulsive, addictive behavior. And I wasn't having enough sex to be a sex addict. But I did realize, wow, this is a really safe place where I can just start telling everything about me I've never wanted anybody to know. Now, I grew up in a dysfunctional family, a very fundamental Christian church. I have 2 degrees in religion. I was a minister for 8 years. But yet here I was hiding. everything about me. So I started opening up, just being open and honest and transparent. And I realized, hey, I really like this. This feels good. This feels good to just like put all this stuff out there I've been hiding. And the reaction to the people around me is, thanks for sharing, Robert. It's like, oh, there was no negative, blowback for any of it. And I thought, I like this. And then I started being more honest and open and transparent with my wife, who I was married to at that time. And that had a positive effect and really blew me away, because like when I was like hiding stuff and, dancing around issues, she would always react so negatively. And then if I just told her the truth about stuff, and I'm thinking she's going to go through the roof, she'd go, oh, okay, thanks for telling me. I'm going, wow, that's really weird. If I just tell the truth, she doesn't react so negatively. So work on being honest and transparent. And again, you need safe people to do that with. Another thing that I tell guys is work on connecting with men. As I mentioned earlier, most of us grow up without good, trusting, healthy relationships with men. And this doesn't mean that all of our connection with men has to be therapeutic or personal growth oriented. Go have fun with guys. And what I did, when I started connecting with men, I started getting back to the gym, joined a rec league basketball team, joined a racquetball tournament, started playing volleyball on Wednesday nights, started connecting with men, started a softball team. For me, those were ways I like to connect with men. Started taking road trips to watch baseball games. Joined a men's group or a men's therapy group in addition to the 12-step group I was in that was all men. And so go connect with men. Go connect with that masculine life force that supports us being masculine. And then probably the last piece I put out there as for a starting point is start taking responsibility for getting your needs met. The only people put on this planet to help you get your needs met were mom and dad. Their job's long done. It's your job now. Take accountability, responsibility for being clear. What are your needs? What do you want? What do you have to have in life? And then start building support systems to do that, whether it means, getting a dentist, a doctor, an accountant, an attorney, a coach at the gym, a life coach, good buddies, whatever it takes. Take responsibility for owning your needs and surrounding yourself with people and resources to help you get your needs met.
I think what really helped me when I was going through that stage is really just finding your own self-worth and confidence. And for me, that came from modeling different sets of behavior. And so I learned really by modeling, and everybody else, will have their own preferred methodology. But if you're like, okay, well, let's act differently when it comes to women and have different behavior sets. Well, what does that mean? What does that look like? What's appropriate? What's not? And so going through Evan's stuff really provided me with examples to follow, but also a new set of tools. Oh, okay, well, here's what I can do instead, or here's what I can say instead, which would be more congruent with the person that I'm wanting to become rather than who I've been. And so from a picks and shovels perspective, finding men that you can model and who can also provide you with a certain set of tools which can act as training wheels for you as you essentially become a different person can be really, really, really helpful. So yeah, it's a life-changing process, and you will never be the same once you go through it. So
And I agree with your approach. And I know, as I said, when I divorced in my mid to late 40s and got out there and started dating, and I hadn't dated since college and didn't do it very well back then. And I realized I had to become a better picker and a better ender. But I realized I had to learn how to relate to women in a different way than just trying to be a nice guy and get their approval. And that's when, clients gave me stuff like Double Your Dating and other books and videos around dating. And what I realized is nobody had the right way to approach women or the right way to date. I was attracted to the ways that involved integrity, that involved being your real self, not the pickup or the games or the tricks or what I call becoming a geek with techniques. But what I decided is I was just going to go out and be a scientist. I often say, I tell guys, put on your lab coat, get your clipboard, like I said, find some stuff from Evan Pagan, find some stuff from other people, and go out and just practice. And then, don't take anything personally. Don't take rejection personally. It's all just practice. And I think that's basically what you're saying is you start modeling or practicing different ways of being. And then you realize, hey, this is much more effective. Hey, women respond to this better. Hey, I can let go of this belief system that women aren't attracted to me or to guys like me, because all of a sudden they are. And it does change your internal belief system when you start seeing something different. But again, as you said, you've got to model some different behaviors. And, kind of that age-old, statement, if you just keep doing what you've always done, you're going to keep getting what you've always got. Or, doing more of the same thing and expecting different results is insanity. So I like that prescription of model, what works.
One of the things that you talked about in the book is showing up with your sexual agenda intact. What does that mean?
That phrase really triggers a lot of nice guys for various reasons. And
what do you mean? You can have an agenda to begin with?
Well, that is part of it. And it's probably for at least a couple of reasons it triggers nice guys. Number one is that when I say that one thing that nice guys tend to do is they try to hide things about themselves that they think other people will disapprove of. And for most men in our culture, that includes sex, or sex maybe is the number one thing that we've been hiding, our sexual fantasies, impulses, desires, behaviors. We start hiding them at a really young age because most of us grow up in families where, the sex is not something that's very open or a positive thing. And I'll often in my workshops and seminars will ask guys to talk about their first sexual memory or their first sexual experience. And I said, doesn't matter what it is. It could be, show me yours, I'll show you mine you had with the neighbor girl at 4. It may be your first wet dream. First time you saw your dad's magazine of girly pictures, whatever it is. And then I'll ask them, did this occur in the open? Was it something that you felt good about? Was it something you could talk to your parents about? Was it something that would be celebrated? Was it something you'd go out and have pizza about? And everybody laughs. Well, no, of course not. And almost without exception, for every guy, and this is, I think, true for every man and woman, at least in Western culture, our earliest sexual things, whether it be experiences or thoughts or beliefs or whatever around sex, are secret. They're hidden. And that teaches us to believe sex is this thing that has to be hidden, is bad, or is in the fundamental church I grew up in, they didn't say it quite this way, but the message was sex is dirty, evil, and sinful, so save it for the one you love. Which there's a real paradox in all that.
Yeah.
And so there's one piece of it is that we've repressed everything about ourselves sexually, and especially if we think that women are turned off by men who have a sexual agenda. But the truth is, I tell guys, there's only one reason you're talking to a woman. She has boobs, and you're hoping to see her naked. That's why you're talking to her. And believe it or not, women know that. Women know why men approach them and talk to them and are friendly to them and offer to do things for them. They know it's because they have boobs and we want to see them naked. They know that. All right. We nice guys think, well, I can hide this from them and make them think I'm a nice guy and then kind of sneak the sexual agenda in on them. Okay. The other side of this is that nice guys tend to be real black and white. And so when I say bring your sexual agenda to the table, that doesn't mean you just like walk up to the woman and just say, all right, I want to fuck you. I want to have sex with you. I want to get naked with you. But it does mean that you bring that energy, that vibe, that polarity, that willing to risk, to lead, to be masculine, to set the tone. You bring that energy that your sexual agenda gives you. If you repress your sexual agenda, you will just come across as an impotent, friendly guy. And the woman will never even think in terms of, oh, you'd be somebody that she could have sex with. It will never cross her mind because you've hidden your own sexual agenda from you even a lot of times. So one of the things I do is I work with guys and say, okay, let's just be honest with ourselves. You're talking to this woman because she has boobs. And one of the fun things that I'll do in workshops is I've created what I call some mojo mantras. And I've got like about 7 of them, and I'll give one to each one of the guys, and they can't look at it, And then no matter what the size of the group is, everybody's got a mojo mantra. And then they walk around introducing themselves to each other, citing their mojo mantra. And there are things like women get wet when I walk in the room. Guys want to be me. My cock is a weapon of mass destruction. They're all just kind of funny. They're funny, but they're embracing our sexuality. That it's a positive thing. It's a great thing. It has a positive influence on the world. And when the guys are walking around the room introducing themselves, all say, "Hi, my name is Robert. My cock is a weapon of mass destruction." And everybody's having a good time. It's fun. It's playful. And when you can bring that kind of energy to your interaction with women, they're going to have a good time too. It's going to be fun. It's going to be playful, rather than you trying to figure out how to get them to like you, so then you can sneak your sexual agenda in on them later on.
Yeah, exactly. It also demonstrates that you're not emotionally attached to the outcome, which is a trait that every leader has. Mm-hmm. If you're an alpha male and you value yourself, you don't care what other people think about you. You don't care if a girl rejects you or not. It just does not impact you in that way. Whereas, a beta male essentially or a nice guy would be devastated by that. And so they tend to avoid putting themselves in that situation to begin with. When it comes to conflict in a relationship, getting in an argument or in a fight, the nice guy routine, which I'm very familiar with from my previous relationships, is how can I fix this? What can I do to make her happy? And no matter what you do or how much you give, it never seems to work. And so what is the solution to
that? There is none. There isn't. There is no solution to it. Relationships are always going to be a struggle. Men and women are different. The masculine and feminine, and we all have masculine and feminine energies in us, are different. The masculine is about consistency. It's about, the sameness of everything forever. And the feminine is the weather. It's about change. And guys, if you're with a woman who has a feminine nature, which probably even if she's a strong woman, and women I'm attracted to tend to be pretty strong women, but they've got a feminine nature, which makes them the weather, and they'll make an emotional statement like, "You never say you love me anymore." And we guys in our masculine turn it into a factual statement. "Well, that's not true. In fact, I said I love you this morning. In fact, look, I can bring up these text messages of all the times I said I love you during the last week." And now all of a sudden, she doesn't feel heard. She reacts emotionally because all she was wanting, it was an invitation for us to get more deeply connected with her. And most of the things that women do that drive us men crazy, believe it or not, are really an invitation for deeper connection. And probably nothing will change until we men can see it that way. But usually what happens is we see it as, I want things to be smooth and calm. I don't want this upset. I don't want the drama. For women, drama is foreplay. For us men, we try to get rid of the drama. I tell guys, even the few things we men do that involve emotional tension, like our sporting events, have time limits on them. But the feminine just lives in that state of emotional drama. And the feminine in us does as well. And that's why we have to connect with that as well and learn to embrace it. And hanging out with women, i.e. being in a relationship, is a great way to help us connect with our own internal feminine. But there is no answer to your question. There is no way that men and women will ever completely understand each other and have smooth, calm relationships. So, what do? We embrace it. We dance with it. We love into it. We see it as an opportunity to bring more of our masculine life force and penetrate the depths of the woman emotionally, physically, sexually. And that's really all the feminine wants, is to be deeply connected and deeply penetrated. And again, usually when a woman's doing stuff we guys think is crazy, it's an invitation to bring more masculine life force to her and overwhelm her. I mean, women tell me all the time, they feel crazy. When they do these things that drive us men crazy, they feel crazy too. And as a marriage therapist for years, every now and then I learn not to ask the question very often, but just sometimes for kicks. When women would describe the crazy things they do to their boyfriend or their husband in a relationship, and I would ask them, do you realize that when you do that, you're doing damage to your partner and to the relationship. And they're smart. They go, yeah, I get that. And then every now and then, with a little bit of a smile, I say, why do you do it? And the answer I get all the time is, I don't know. I can't help myself. The women feel crazy as well. So really what they're wanting is, they don't want to be the strongest person in the room. They want some masculine life force to come bring that sense of power and that does and create a calm. But it's not the calm of us trying to fix everything and get the woman back to calm. It's because we penetrate her so deeply, she goes into a state of bliss, and then, okay, this does feel good.
So on one hand, you've got the nice guy. On the other hand, you've got just a jerk, a jackass. Who in the middle are we, who would we be striving to become? What would a healthy male look like? And what would your term for that be?
Good question. And when I wrote No More Mr. Nice Guy, and I thought I had it pretty much complete, I sent it off to an editor, and he wrote back with some commentary. And one of them was, okay, you've told the guys what not to be. You got to let them know what to be, what they're becoming. And so I came up with the term integrated male. Now, we could use any number of terms for that. I just had to pick a term, and integrated male seemed to click well. And one of the questions, the guys ask me this question all the time when they come to realize, okay, my nice guy paradigm doesn't work well. Okay, but I don't want to go the other extreme and be the asshole jerk. And so I want to find something that's kind of, a happy balance in the middle. And I tell people, I don't know where the tipping point is between two dysfunctional extremes. Both the nice guy and the asshole jerk are driven really by the exact same internal dynamic, i.e. shame and anxiety. It's just that when it comes to when our anxiety and shame gets triggered, nice guys go into kind of the flight freeze mode. The asshole jerks go into the fight mode. They tend to manipulate people very externally. Nice guys tend to manipulate people very internally, very covertly. But both of them are actually reacting to anxiety and shame. So we actually don't need to go find where's the happy middle ground. We actually have to take it to another level where we become conscious enough of our shame and begin releasing that, and conscious of our anxiety and how we try to avoid it and how we try to manipulate situations when we're feeling it, and learn to soothe ourselves and all those other things that I talked about, of finding safe people to do this with, of connecting with men, of making our needs a priority. As we do those things, those are what take us up to that other level, completely out of that realm of just being reactionary to shame and anxiety. We quit being reactionary and become more action-oriented, because when we're not just reacting to everything that happens around us or everything we're afraid might happen around us.
Yep, absolutely agreed. It's a very peaceful place to be when you're not at the mercy of reacting to the situations that you find yourself in. So that's awesome. Well, this has been definitely one of my favorite conversations that I've had here on the show in a very, very long time. So Dr. Glover, Robert, thank you so much. Obviously, the book is No More Mr. Nice Guy. It's on Audible as well. I actually listened to it. But where can people go to connect with you and to participate and plug into what you have going on?
Okay, easiest way to find me is at my website, drglover.com. That's drglover.com. I have an online university with self-help courses. I've got podcasts I've recorded pretty much on most subjects on recovery from nice guy syndrome. There's certified coaches and therapists listed. There's an online support group. You can Google Robert Glover. I come up about the first 5 places on Google. If you Google No More Mr. Nice Guy, I used to tell people Alice Cooper and I came up 1 and 2, but I looked the other day and actually I've got about 10 of 11 spots on the first page, and Alice Cooper comes in at number 6. Bless his heart.
Nicely done.
So go to drglover.com or Google Robert Glover, No More Mr. Nice Guy. You'll find me.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. This was fantastic. I think it's going to make a huge impact on a lot of men who are listening. And ladies, if there's a man in your life that resembles the scenarios today and these characteristics that Robert and I have both been through and thankfully recovered from, get this podcast into their hands immediately, plug them into the book and into drglover.com, and it will absolutely change that person's life. So thank you once again, Dr. Glover, and thank y'all all so much for listening. I appreciate your support. And if you loved this episode as much as I think you did, it would be absolutely awesome if y'all would go leave a review for Self-Made Man on iTunes. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next week.